Hi, y'all. This is LMC. I wanted to show you a workflow that you can use to prepare your speech for a city council meeting. It's super easy, and your research is your secret weapon. And as someone who's been doing this for over 3 decades, I've watched it change. Back in the day, when they would post the agenda, you had to drive up to City Hall, and they would have it inside that little plastic placard. You'd have to look at it, and you'd have to walk in and get a physical copy. Now you have all of the information located at your fingertips that you can use on your digital device. Some people are super crafty on their cell phones. Others are like me and they like to use a desktop or a laptop computer. Regardless of what your workflow is, this is a system that's worked for me, and I think it will help you prepare your presentation. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is do a screen share and show you where to go to locate the documentation to prepare your speech. As you can see, this is the homepage of the City Council. Now, there are different places you can find the agenda. There's actually two where you can find them. If you go to City Council, video archives, here's where you can find old videos, and they'll have the agenda. So for example, August 15th, sometimes they'll have the agenda. So like the one coming up in September, let's see here. So the one coming up in September, pretty soon they'll have the September meeting and they'll have an agenda there that you can pull. And then at the end of the evening, they'll locate the video. So that's where you can go back and watch a video. That's not how I do it. The way I do it is I go to the home page, and I go to the bottom where it says interactive agendas, and this drives me crazy how this thing moves like this. I go to the interactive agendas, and at the interactive agendas, you can not only pull the city council meetings, but the planning and zoning. Here is, so you can sort it by year if you want to, if you're interested in something that happened back in, I don't know, 2016, you can click on 2016. You can look at the agenda, the minutes, and watch the video, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go to 2023. And if I was interested in something that happened this year at the Planning and Zoning Commission, I can click on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I can watch I could look at what the agenda was and click on that and it will download, or I can watch the video. And here are the upcoming meetings. Let's talk about the city council. And this holds true, this meetings detail that I'm about to show you holds true for not only the planning and zoning, but also the city council. So if I click on the city council, you can see the last meeting that they had was on August 15th. The 3 o'clock work session is where oftentimes, and I have a real issue with this, they make votes at 3 o'clock that they then bring up at 6 o'clock. I think any vote where they make a decision should be held at a 6 o'clock meeting when everybody's home watching the meeting, not at 3 o'clock when the rest of us are at our work day, but I'm not the mayor. So, but just so you know, there may be an issue that you are interested in that occurs at a 3 o'clock. So if I am an engaged citizen, I pull both the agenda for the 3 p.m., what they call a work session, and then the 6 p.m. Both of these meetings, you can present a citizen comment, and there's also a portion of the agenda called questions and answers session from the press and public where you can ask questions. I have 3 years of city council meetings that have been edited to show the public that the rules to questions from the press and public have changed, and that's unfortunate. And I've tried my dangest to get that rectified to no avail. But at least we have that on the agenda because I had to go to the Attorney General's office to get that on the agenda, and that's a whole nother drama. You can pull the agenda by clicking on the agenda, and when you do that, it's going to download to your computer, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. What I do after I pull the agenda is I click on, so let's say I was interested in the 3 p.m. from August 15th, and it was that day, right? Or maybe a couple days prior. I could look at the agenda and once again, click on it and it will download, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then at that meeting, they only had one topic, which was the capital improvements program. Now, as you can see here, and this is problematic, you can click on this item and they have the workshop presentation, which you can download, and then they have the CIP. Unfortunately, some of this stuff was not uploaded until right before the meeting, which I also take issue with. So as an engaged citizen, it's your duty to keep going back and looking for that, or to email city staff and ask them, where is it? And here then you could see what the presentation is, and here they actually had the budget for people to look at. So now let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's an example of one of those attachments that I downloaded, and they kind of give you, and this is why I found it problematic that it wasn't available to the public until right before the meeting. You can see all of the different line items of what they're going to be doing with their capital improvements project, and you could go through this. And this is where you get all of your evidentiary support for my screen sharing. Let me see, my screen sharing. All right, here. So here you go. So here's the capital improvements agenda attachment that they had. And as you can see, there is kind of an overview of what the projects were. And then you can go through and look at the budget. And this is something that I kind of was concerned about, that it didn't come up until right before the meeting. It certainly wasn't available when the agenda was released. So as an engaged citizen, it's incumbent upon you to keep going back to that interactive agenda, because city staff have a tendency, even though many of us have told them throughout the years that we take issue with that, to upload attachments right before the meeting. And this happens continuously, and it's a problem. And so you either need to email city staff like I did and say, hey, where's the budget? You just posted the agenda, but I don't see a budget, or you need to keep going back and looking for it. So that's that. Now let me show you what an agenda looks like. So let me pull up the agenda and do another screen share. Okay, so here is an agenda, and this was the work session agenda. So you can see here that they call to order, they have a citizen comment period, and they now have a link, and you could probably click on this link. Let's try it. We'll try it in a moment, where you have to, before you would send an email, now they have this form that you need to fill out. It's important to know in the regular agendas what the public hearings you want to talk to, because this form, the ones you want to talk about, because this form is going to ask you to identify which public hearing items you want to talk on. So make a note when you download a regular 6 p.m. agenda. This is the 3 p.m. work session. It's at 3 o'clock when most people are at work, which is problematic because they're giving presentations and they're having discussions. And in other instances, they're making decisions when people are at work, or they don't even really know that this meeting exists before city council. And to some of the city council members' credit, they're in a meeting from 3 p.m. up until sometimes midnight from the 6 p.m. session. So there's a 3 p.m. session that oftentimes goes to about 5:50. And then there's a 6 p.m. session that oftentimes goes to 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock midnight, or 1 p.m. I've been at those lately. So here is the presentation. And then there is a section called question and answer session from the press and public. You can ask questions of the city council or city staff on any item related to the agenda. So anything that's on the agenda, you can ask a question. It used to be an interactive process where you would ask a question and they would answer, and then you would ask another question and they would answer. Now they're making people ask all of their questions, and then they just decide if they're going to answer or not, and then they make it back to you or not. And I have 3 years of question and answer session from the press and public that I have edited together, that I may go ahead and upload to this YouTube channel, of how that process has changed, which is problematic because there really aren't any ground rules that have been codified. It's pretty much whatever the mayor's mood is on how that rolls. And it's very telling what city staff will or will not answer. and how they get back to you. So that's that. So now let me show you something else that you can do to prepare your speeches when you're working on a, let me get back to the regular website, and then I'm going to show you something else you can do. So now let me do another screen share. Screen share. Okay, so here we are. So now we're back at the City Council, the City of San Marcos website. Once again, at the interactive agendas, that's where I went. And so right now we're at the end of August of 2023. And then the next one is going to be in September 5th, and they're going to upload these agendas. Also make a note, sometimes they'll upload it, then a day later they'll upload another agenda, and they'll upload their attachments, whatever strikes their fancy. There's really no codification of how those, I mean, some of those attachments are literally uploaded that day, and it's been going on for years. And it's very frustrating to an engaged citizen that they can't just get, I mean, let's face it, your boss asks you to do something, they give you a deadline, you do it, right? But for some reason, city staff just, they just kind of, they make an agenda, and then they make corrections, and then they upload attachments, at their own whim. And so it's incumbent upon you as an engaged citizen to keep going back to the meeting details section, where you can look at all those little areas. And so here's another example of an agenda. And you can, so let's say I'm interested in this first one, I would click on this, and it will have the ordinance and some of the exhibits. There may be another one, like for example, this highly controversial one of the curfew. If you had looked at earlier renditions, sometimes they'll have a presentation, and you can literally sit and look at what the staff presentation will be. Sometimes I'll look at it ahead of time. Other times I have it open and I follow along. Other times the city staff person is giving the presentation, I'm reading the other attachments that they won't go through and notice what's missing, or maybe hone on something. And so, and what you're looking for a lot of times on an agenda are the public hearings. And I'll show you in a moment where that would be on the agenda proper. But if we're looking here on this specific instance, there is a public hearing. Let's see, let's find a public hearing. Let's see here, see, where's a public hearing? I know there was one this meeting. Okay, receive a staff presentation, hold a public hearing. So when you sign up for citizen comments or a public hearing or questions from the press and public, those are the three areas that you can be an engaged citizen and give a speech. You're going to want to know the public hearing agenda number when you sign up to speak. And here's the presentation, and then they're going to have some maps. So now let me show you, let's go ahead and go. So we're here at this old city council meeting, right? Let's pretend like this is the one coming up. You can just click on the agenda and it's going to download. Now let me show you what the agenda looks like. So let me go to my downloads and double click on the agenda. Okay. So now, let me do another screen share. Okay, so here is the agenda. And as you can see, the three areas that you can speak as a citizen are citizen comment period, where you get 3 minutes to speak. The mayor likes to ring a bell to remind you of her power. And so what I do is if I'm on Zoom, there's a timer that they put up, and I watch the timer. I also record my speeches, and so I can see from the recording how long it is just by looking down at my recording on my phone, or else I'll have a stopwatch. And then she's going to ring her little bell to show you how powerful she is when your time is over. So make sure that you practice your speech and be able to get all of your information out in time. And I'll have another video where I teach you how I create an outline for a presentation. Then there's the consent agenda, where they will pull items that they want to discuss. If nobody has a question for city staff or wants to discuss it, they'll just pass all of these in one fell swoop. Then the public hearings. And so if you want to speak about one of these public hearings, make sure you write this down on a piece of paper, because when you sign up to speak, you are going to have to identify the public hearing number. And then, like I showed you earlier, you'll go to the interactive agenda and you can read all of the information and see what the city staff's presentation is going to be about. And then here's the consent agenda. And then at the very end, there's questions and answer session from the press and public. Oftentimes, there will be something here called executive session, which they've already talked about in the 3 p.m. work session. And once again, my opinion is all of that should be done at a 6 o'clock session. But oftentimes what they'll do is they'll make you wait if they haven't already talked about it, and then they'll come back and then they'll have this questions from this set question answer session from the press and public. Here you have 3 minutes to talk about anything on this agenda. You can talk about any of these consent items, you can talk about a public hearing, but it has to be on the agenda. And remember, this used to be an interactive process where you would ask a question and they would answer, and you would ask a question and they would answer. Now the mayor has it where you have to ask all your questions, and then they kind of scratch their head and then they say, we'll get back to you. And I can prove that. The mayor seems to think, well, the mayor has stated that it's a falsehood when I've made that claim that she's changed her workflow, but I can verify it by 3 years of video footage of how she's changed the rules of the game. So just be aware of that. So if I were you, I would write out as many questions as you can and just read them as fast as you can, and then they're just going to have to email you back. The problem is that the citizens do not see this in the recording. They just send you an email. So then it's incumbent upon a citizen to go to the message board. Now they've changed that workflow after I filed a complaint, because my claim was, this is televised. When I ask a question and city staff say, we'll get back to you and email you, the citizens don't see that on TV, right? They don't see my email. And so I filed an ethics complaint, and then suddenly the next week, the mayor says, well, we're going to go ahead and put those answers on the message board. So now let me show you where the message board is located. So you may ask some questions that they may put up on the message board. Let me navigate to the home page and show you where that is. And the other thing about the message board is you can watch discussions between city staff and elected officials in real time on the message board. And once again, this is another level of transparency that I fought for over a period of 7 years, because it was not available for the public to view. It occurred that the old city manager, Bert Lumbreras, brought this message board to the city of San Marcos. And it was problematic because in the city of Austin, where he came from, it was live for the citizens to see. But for some reason, when he got here to San Marcos, he didn't make it live. And I had to go to the Attorney General to get this in plain sight for citizens. So let's say there's an upcoming work session that you're interested in, like next week in September. When they load the agenda, they're going to load all of the agenda items here for citizens to review. Now let's go to an old one. Let's go to the old regular agenda, the 6 o'clock meeting that they had, and they have them all here. These are, so let's say agenda item number, let's look and see if there was any discussion. Here's one where there is some discussion. Interlocal agreement with the capital area CapCog for household hazardous waste drop-off. So you can click on here. Here's the item number, and it's in sequential order. So here is the caption. Here's the mayor's question, or somebody else can ask a question, and then you'll get an answer from city staff. So if there's a topic affecting your neighborhood, you can watch this in real time when the agenda is posted and see if there's interaction. I've noticed when I've emailed questions to city council that my questions may end up here. Now, allegedly, some of the questions that I've asked in the past are now posted up here, but who's going to go back and look for that, right? So anyway, I hope that let's go ahead and now look for how you can sign up for citizen comments, questions and answers from the press and public, or a specific public hearing that you're interested in. So let me do screen share again. Screen share agenda, here we go. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the top here, you're gonna download your agenda, and if I were you, I would just take this and bookmark it. It should be, yeah. So now I can click on that, and it's gonna take me to the citizen comment sign up form. Here's the form. There should be a form that you can sign on. So I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm perplexed, but there should be a form. And so now at this point, I'm going to stop the video and email City Hall to tell them there's a problem with their form. Okay, thank you for watching my video.